This is Slain. Now, I played Slain back when it originally launched in like March or April or something, and it was okay, I guess. They got a lot of slack, and they went back and they changed a lot of things, and the combat is not completely different, but largely overhauled. Very different, very, very overhauled. It actually lives up to that name of overhaul. However, and I played through this entire game, it's a tough Castlevania 1 through 3, more so, style game. And it's fun, and it's good, but it's got some problems, namely some problems that persisted from the original release. Now this re-release, in air quotes, there are changes, there are layout changes, there are different ways, and there are new enemies, there are 3 or 4 new bosses. Like, there's a ton of new shit in here. And a lot of the new stuff is some of the better stuff. But a lot of the old stuff really doesn't. I think the platforming is serviceable. The traps are not as ridiculous as they used to be before. They're still kind of ridiculous. The most egregious part of this game is its hard and fast rule that it adheres to not have consistency with the difficulty. So the game is tough. The bosses are tough, whatever, etc. That's not the problem. The problem is when there's a section that's super annoying and frustrating for, I don't know, you're fighting a bunch of enemies, all this shit's going on, and then you get to the next platform, and there's more enemies, and you're fighting them, and then there's more enemies, and then there's more enemies, and you keep going, and then there's a checkpoint. Okay? And then other sections of the game will be like, oh, fight a couple guys, jump a couple times, checkpoint. There's no consistency here, and there are several instances of egregious checkpoints that are so bad. The start of what essentially is the second level, it took me 15 minutes maybe to get it going, to get through to it, because it was so like, okay, here I got through this mob. What about, oh, now there's another mob? Oh, now there's another thing? And the combat isn't that amazingly great. Like, the combat's fine, you know? But the combat isn't anything to write home about. It's better than it was before. You got your 1 moves for attacks, and then you got your block / counter button. Now, before we even talk about that, there's a lot of problems with the combat in terms of particle effects, which is weird to say, but you're hitting things. I don't know if you can see it in the footage, if I ever attack anything in the footage. There's all these effects. Like, look at the skeletons. There's bones and shit flying everywhere. However, when the enemy does to attack you, they're barely moving. You can barely see them moving to attack you. So you're kind of stuck in this weird zone of like, I don't want to be too aggressive if I don't think I'll kill him, because he's going to start doing a move, and he's going to hit me for 1/8 of my life, because I couldn't see him raise his sword, because there's fucking blood and bones and shit flying everywhere. You can't see it very well. And is that a stupid complaint? Sure, but it happened enough to where I was like, I would stop attacking. Like, I know the enemy's going to attack here soon. I'll stop attacking so I can see him do it. And that's a weird thing to say, because what they've added in are counterattacks. So an enemy raises his sword right when he attacks. If you press the guard button, he is like, bing, and then you can hit the attack button and do a super move that either kills him or does a lot of damage. This is integral for bosses and several different enemies in basically how to dispatch them. Otherwise, you're going to be hitting them and kind of doing your backside forever. So you have to be doing this counter thing a lot. And when you do it correctly, just on normal enemies, you can rebuild your mana. So your mana, you can shoot little lightning bolts and all that. It's fine, and that combat system works for the most part, except for when the checkpoints get ridiculous, and it actually behooves you to not fight anything, but instead jump on enemies and get hit by their just hitting them damage and not their sword hitting you damage, and then going past them. There were several sections in the game where I was like, well, fuck this, I'm leaving. I'm just gonna go over here, and I did. And yeah, that's how I got to that section, because it was so annoying to fight 30 different enemies where things are constantly flying at you, and it's just like it's easier just to run away. Why would I fight these guys? There's no experience, there's no XP, there's no leveling up. So why am I fighting any of these things? There's no point. There is literally no point in doing this, so I won't. I will not fight you. You can't jump after me, so I'm gonna jump off this platform and say bye. Goodbye. Goodbye, boss man. I invincibility framed through you, and see ya. See you later. The game also does super annoying things sometimes where you'll be surrounded on both sides, and I had to resort to cheap tactics sometimes just to win. Which, I mean, maybe it's like, oh, get good, get better at it. It's like, it didn't feel like I needed to get better. I feel like I needed to get lucky, because some of these situations it puts you in are ridiculous and not fun to do. There's a difference of like a Dark Souls trap where you're like, oh shit, what's going on? And this game where you get killed so quickly by like fireballs flying everywhere, and like, I can't block this. I can't jump out of the way of this. If I jump out of the way, I'm gonna hit this other guy, and he's gonna hit me into this thing, and I'm gonna be insta killed. Like, it's out of control. That being said, a lot of it isn't that bad. It's just that these points of contention are bad. But let's talk about the good things. The bosses, by and large, are really good, and I would especially like to shout out the last 4 bosses, which happen kind of like right on top of each other. The fourth to last boss is great, very a Dark Souls-y type of boss, but it's all about counterattacks. It's all about watching him and being like, okay, he's gonna do it, counter, and that's fun. That's very enjoyable to me. I love doing stuff like that. That's great. And then the next 3 bosses, which weren't in the original game, all 4 of those bosses are new, by the way. The game used to end like you'd go to the end, and the guy would be like, haha, I win, and then the game ended. That's how it used to end. But now there's 3 boss fights, and it makes a lot more sense. And those boss fights are good. Those boss fights were fun. Some of the most fun I had was fighting the second to last boss, because it wasn't super difficult of a fight, but it was a fun thing to learn, and I won't spoil what it is. It's a beast. But it was a ton of fun, and fighting the boss before that was fun, and fighting the boss after that was fun. Those last bosses were fun. Some of them are annoying more so than others. The ones that are annoying, fun fact, are the ones from the original game. They don't hold up that great. There's one new one that's kind of lame, but for the most part, they're good fun. I think the bosses are a big highlight to me. I just wish the game focused more on platforming traps sometimes, as opposed to this combat, which only really works one-on-one cool super fights, not when, okay, there's this guy who I gotta watch out for because he can kill me in literally 1 hit. Okay, he can kill you in 1 hit, and there's also these little spider things crawling around. So I gotta kill the spider things because they're kind of in the way. And if they hit me, I'm gonna get hit weird, and he's gonna hit me and kill me in 1 hit. So I gotta bait the spiders, and if I go too far forward, this other spider will see me and start spitting things at me, and I got the 1-hit guy trying to attack me. So these situations, while interesting, are not fun to do. The bosses, the one-on-one fights, are cool, intense moments and are fun, but it does hinge on that shitty checkpoint system of, why are some of these easy to get to and some of these 15 minutes of my life, right? I think there's a balance in the middle there that should be looked at and could be achieved simply by removing a few enemies in certain areas. There are 2 major ones. I already talked about the one at the beginning of the 2nd level, which is ridiculous. And if you compare it to the beginning of the 3rd level, it's bafflingly terrible how much better the 3rd level is in terms of balance and just enjoyment and flow in playing, and not feeling like you're just being bashed over the head. There's another area at the very end of the game which they toned down significantly. There used to be birds flying at you everywhere. There's still birds flying at you everywhere, but it feels like they shortened it in half maybe, which is for the best, because it was out of control before. I mean, I did beat it before, and I did beat it now, but good God, did it not want me to? Sometimes it really felt like okay. So to anyone being like, good, I got the platinum in Bloodborne. I've beaten all the Souls games. I beat Fury earlier this year on the normal difficulty. There's a bunch. I like this style game. I like this action, block at the right moment, fight, 2D, whatever. I like that style game. I'm pretty good at it. I'm not gonna say I'm great. I'm pretty good. Some of these sections are just out of control bonkers in terms of like what, as I said, there's no reason to fight during them. Fighting things in certain instances is to your detriment because you're gonna end up getting hit and you're gonna end up having to fight another thing later and you're not gonna be able to make it. So damaging through enemies with your invincibility frames and going through them is smarter, and that should never be the case. It should never be smarter to get hit by something and invincibility frame through it than to fight it. That does not make sense, and it comes down to the difficulty. All that could have been fixed by just adding another checkpoint. That could have been fine. Add one more checkpoint in those two sections I mentioned, in the middle of them, and it wouldn't have been a big deal. It would have been perfectly acceptable. But instead, it was not. And I cannot. They changed a lot of stuff. There's some areas that's like, there were a lot more traps here before, I feel like. And other things have changed, and a lot of the bosses seem like they've gotten more difficult and more interesting overall. But some of the things that haven't been changed are baffling that they haven't been changed. When you change so much else. And I do think it has improved overall vastly. I mean, before the combat was very much just like whack, 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 and then backstep if something got too close. So an enemy, you'd like whack them a couple times and they'd raise their arms to hit you. Green screen. And then you'd back up and they'd do their attack. Then you'd run back up to them, whack, 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 whack. And they'd raise their hands up and you'd backstep. And then it'd repeat over and over. That's how you'd fight them. So now having that counter attack really does something to the combat. Because before, you could hit things a bunch of times, and then their necks would have this like red line start to grow, and you'd press the now guard button. Because before there was no guard button. Before, guard was pressed down and like crouch, and you'd auto guard. Now it's a dedicated button, and crouching doesn't auto guard. It used to be where you'd hit them a bunch of times, you get the red thing on their neck, you'd press Y, which is the guard button, but it used to be the heavy attack decapitate button, which would decapitate them with the attack and give you mana. So they kind of reworked that whole system down, and it works a lot better. But it was kind of fun being mindless before. Now a lot of it is super focused. And you can see this. This is a boss fight right here. That was me blocking the attack, doing a super attack on it, or a counter attack. I'm pretty sure I die here because I don't know what the fuck. Oh no, yeah, you can spam magic on some of these fights. This is the first boss in the game. Chop off his head. Oh, I didn't press attack. Oh, what an idiot. I could have pressed attack and gotten an achievement. Oh, that's another thing. The achievements are all bugged. I got half of them that I think I was supposed to get. I don't know. If that's something you care about, that's a thing that didn't occur for me. But I think that's it. The game is fine. It does a lot of things right. It's not spectacular. It's not going to be on anyone's Game of the Year list, I doubt. It's not on the Worst of the Year list. It wasn't before. It was just like really strangely disappointing before. Now it's just fine. It's good. They redid all the writing and dialogue, which before was hilarious. It was like, I think people would say ruffle. Like, it was so weird. It was so strangely written. They went through and gave characters dialogue that wasn't just bizarro world shit. The game's fine, you know? It's good. It's enjoyable. You could probably pick it up on Steam. I think it's like $15 or something. Maybe $10. I think a good $5 to $10 is a good price to pay for it. It's going to take you about 5-ish plus hours depending to beat it. It's good. It's not short. It's not long. A lot of stuff's been added. The final section of the game is like double in length now because they added 3 boss fights. Oh, plus the final 3 boss fights. So they added a lot to the end of the game, which is great. Some of the best stuff is towards the end. Some of the worst stuff is towards the beginning. Which is kind of opposite from what you see from a lot of things. So that's Slain. Also, be prepared not only to die, but to repeat sections over and over, because some annoying skeleton man keeps whacking you in the face with magic, and you don't like that.